Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. I got a couple things to cover in the news today, and yeah, something that completely caught me off guard today. I had to take another COVID test. That's right. Do I look a little disheveled? It's okay. I just came from the gym, so I'm getting my exercise in while I'm on the gym. But wow, this morning I was up late last night working, probably till like 3, 4 in the morning. And then at 8 o'clock this morning, I was woken to on the door. It was my room steward, and I was confused because I had my privacy thing on, so no one's supposed to knock. And normally that means something's wrong, and it wasn't anything really wrong, but they handed me a COVID test and said everyone had to take their COVID test. So I took my COVID test, and luckily I was negative. So I'm still good to go on my cruise, but I was not expecting to have to take another COVID test so quickly. I mean, we just took it a few days ago to get on the ship. It's only day 2 of our cruise. So kind of caught off guard there. But in the news, speaking of being caught off guard, we had a bunch of cruise ships this week in Florida that couldn't get back to port, especially in Tampa because, well, it's just too foggy. It was so dense and so thick that the cruise ships could not make their way to port. For over 9 hours it took them from the time they arrived to start getting back into the area of port. So a bunch of them, actually 3 of them, parked outside in the fog near each other, and just so they can keep in touch with each other and wait till the fog lifted till they could finally get in and cruise. Well, of course this caused a lot of havoc and a lot of disgruntled people, but a good deal, majority of them took this with a real, you know what, at least it's not snow and the flights are canceled and everything. We know we're going to get on the ship. The fog's not going to be here for 5 days. So the fog's going to lift. We're going to get on the ship. It's just going to be a bit delayed. And a lot of them took it really, really well. Others, of course, did not. They completely freaked out. Our cruise is ruined because we're delayed 10 hours to get on the ship, etc., etc., etc. And, demanding all their money back, etc., etc. And yeah, you're not going to get all your money back. You're not going to. It's in the cruise contract. Stuff like this is unavoidable, and it's not. The cruise is not going to take a chance and destroy $1 billion ship because you're not going to get on the ship for 10 hours. So many people of these ships ended up leaving late into the evening and even early morning before they finally made it out to port. But the good news is they finally did manage to get out to sea, and everybody hopefully has a great cruise. Like I said, a vast majority of people took this very lightheartedly, but there are some out there that immediately went running to customer service the second they get on the ship, demanding compensation and demanding money back. Yeah. That's the cruise life, folks. It's just the cruise life. Speaking of people who are demanding some things, we got Bar Harbor back in the news again. Like, this is one of those never-ending stories, it seems, where they just passed legislation by the town council that starts in March that will now limit all cruise ships to having a maximum passengers off the ships of 1,000 people per day. That means that there's 3 ships that pull into port. They each have to have 333, and one lucky ship can have 334. And now, well, the politicians there warned some other politicians saying, we've been reading some of the laws of the state, and if people take us to court, we think we could have a real rough time to, make sure that this mandate that we're putting through in this ordinance actually stays, because it looks like we don't have too much of a leg to stand on in some cases. Well, people are taking them to court. Numerous businesses, including the tourism area, a nonprofit business organization for Bar Harbor, as well as the marine ports themselves, as well as whale watching excursions and restaurants and a whole bunch of others, are now taking the city to court and asking a judge to overturn this decision. And a lot of people are thinking that they have a really good chance of having this happen, and it has to end up going to court, eventually to state court, eventually to federal court. And there are even some private citizens now who are more in favor of limiting the ships than it seems like the actual politicians there are, and saying, because they've now put in their right to speak and right to talk in this lawsuit, where they're saying we have a right to decide what our town can do. You do, but your town cannot override the good of the state, and the good of the state cannot override the good of the country. You see how those three things progress. So if this hurts other ports and other businesses and things like that, the state can overturn it, like they did in Florida. So we'll see what happens with this. Again, it's that never-ending story that just seems to be happening all the time. And yeah, well, I am on the Newer Dam. This is a press junket, if you will, where they've invited about 8 of us on board to come down and visit Australia and New Zealand, see the Newer Dam, experience what it's like to cruise right now in this area. And there's some things going on that we're not caught off, we were kind of caught off guard by. The test today, having to test, wearing a mask and all that. And in all of that, even though all of that is going on, I'm still having a good cruise. I am. I'm enjoying the people that I've been meeting on board. The staff has been absolutely wonderful. We have some representatives here who are helping us out from the cruise line, and just we booked some shore excursions, and they were not enough room for a lot of people on board, and they worked with the tour operators and everything and got us into those. So we're able now to go to Hobbiton, I believe. I keep calling it Hobbit Town because it's the Shire. It's like a Hobbit town, but it's Hobbiton, and we're going to be able to go to the Lord of the Rings movie studio. So I'm really looking forward to this. And tomorrow is our first real step into New Zealand. We're going to arrive, and we're going to go through Fjordland, which is spectacular. As long as the weather holds out for us, we're going to have to get up really early. About 5 a.m., 4 a.m. to get a good spot, unless we can film it from our balcony. But I kind of like to get the whole picture out there of everything. So we're going to try and get up at the front of the ship where we can film the whole entrance from start to finish. I hope you'll tune in for that and check it out. But having a good time. And yeah, some friends, my friend Tony here is on board with me, of course, from La Vida Loca. And he's been getting some interesting comments on people because he spent a day... basically 2 days in Sydney, and people are saying that's not long enough, not long enough. And yeah, we completely agree. We completely agree. I was here for 24 hours, arrived on the 29th midday, and I was on a cruise, sorry, I flew out the 29th. I arrived on the 31st midday, and I stepped on a cruise midday on the 2nd. So I was been here 2 days in Sydney. One of those days was basically going around and getting prepared into my hotel, and then out for the fireworks. And then we tried to do whatever we could do in a 24-hour period of things that were open on New Year's Day, of which there were not a lot of things open on New Year's Day. So I booked a few more days. That's right. I'm going to stay in Australia a couple more days, and because I'm able to do this, my friend Natalie, cruise director Natalie, might actually be able to get down either to Sydney, or I'll get down to her town and visit out there as well. So I'm glad I was able to do this. I worked with Air Canada. They were very accommodating to help me out, and the hotel got me in even though they were pretty full. So I've been pretty lucky. I've been pretty lucky so far as reservations are concerned. And again, even though there's COVID restrictions and everything up, and nervousness about taking a test and all this, because you never know, right? You can have no symptoms, you can test positive, and now you got to quarantine for 7 days. Here in New Zealand, if you test positive, you must quarantine in your cabin for 7 days, which now would be the majority of the crews remaining. So it would not be a good time, but I tested negative. I'm all excited. We're heading into Sydney in the morning. Heading into New Zealand in the morning. And then we got 6 ports in a row where we have something doing every day. And I hope you'll stay tuned for a lot of that. I'm hoping to bring a ton of footage as we tour New Zealand together. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. We'll see more tips, more tricks, more travel blogs from around the world. Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.